Inflation in Australia is around 6%. What we're saying that if you work your ass off over the next 5 years to save $50,000, by the time you've saved that over the next 5 years, it's gone in purchasing power. This is like what people don't understand. You are fighting against the system. Welcome back to another episode of the Ben and Berg Show with your favorite MBA and high school dropout. Today we're talking why you're getting absolutely railed by holding cash and why having crypto in your portfolio is a good thing and how Bergs and I have our portfolio set up. Now, we've done a similar episode about 6 months ago, but we thought it'd be a good time with everything that's going on with inflation and the Fed rising interest rates and CPI and cost of living and everyone, talking about how little money they have left over at the end of the week. How to actually get out of that system, how to escape the rat race, why there's only two real ways you can actually get out of that consistent battle of like living paycheck to paycheck, and how Bergs and I are thinking about that and how we are investing ourselves, the time horizons and goals we have, so you can take that into your own investing strategies and execute a better crypto and just broader investing strategy. Bergs, how are you?
Mate, I'm doing so well. I'm post-surgery. I can breathe normally, and I'm really looking forward to this episode. And the way that Ben and I have prepared for this is did a video a few weeks back, how to calculate your net worth in 5 minutes, and we've got our allocations. And we're not financial advice warning on this. Do see your professional. This is just general on what we're doing and how we are structured given our station in life. I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on this, Ben. Mate, let's kick this off and get into it.
Let's kick it off. Now, this is a bit of a follow-on from episode 53 of how I became a millionaire from crypto and how you can too. So that goes a bit deeper into my specific crypto investing strategy, as well as how you can trial building up your crypto portfolio and how I would be allocating crypto right now if I was starting from zero. So if you haven't checked out that episode, number 53 is a cracking one. But I want to start...
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You dropped a lot of knowledge in there, man.
Yeah.
And all of our lessons really came out. The years and years that I've been investing, but also crypto, and you in crypto too, you can learn so much from that episode.
Yeah. So go and check that out, episode 53. But what we wanted to start off with is just the cost of living, Bergs. Like, I've been speaking to some people, even some people close to me that, are really struggling with, living right now. Like, having enough money at the end of the week to pay for food and looking to downsize their already small one-bedroom apartment in like suburban, like Melbourne and Sydney, to go and live with other people to try and save money, and they're on $75,000 a year. Like, that's a decent salary, and like people are struggling. The cost of living has soared, and this is off the back of the amount of money that was printed during COVID from the US government. We printed trillions of dollars in the ecosystem, and then inflation was out of control. We got up to close to 10% here in Australia and the US. UK is still at about 10% inflation. And the Fed are fighting to try and reduce that inflation by rising interest rates. So when you rise interest rates, theoretically it slows down the velocity of money, but it also impacts, things like mortgages and loans that you're having to pay back to the bank. The amount of people with jobs, so like the unemployment rate is at all-time lows, which means that it's becoming harder to hire more staff. It means that you're having to pay more for those staff, which means that the costs of your business is increasing, which means you need to increase revenue, which equals you need to increase prices. Like, this is just all interconnected.
Yeah.
And people are struggling, Bergs.
The flow-on effects are absolutely huge. And even just what you said there, think about this. You have to hire someone new. Cost of living's gone up. You have to pay them more. Then the other people in your business, they see the ad or they find out how much they've been paid. You have to increase their wages as well. And then what do? You've got to increase prices so consumers pay more. And it's just a never-ending cycle. And then your mortgage rates go up. So you have to pay more over there. Everything you buy in your life goes up. And what we're doing is we're paying for our sins. Like, we had COVID, we had lockdowns, we printed a lot of money and we smoothed that out. And now we have to pay the piper. The reason we're doing that is to avoid hyperinflation, to calm things down, constrict the money supply, make it more expensive. So there's a disincentive to spend. And it seems to be kind of, working for now. And it's one of those things where you take shorter term pain than a longer term, multi 2, 3, 5 year kind of pain.
Yeah. And to put this into context, there's this thing called the CPI inflation, which is the inflation rate that the government uses to track. It's called the Consumer Price Index. How the increase year on year or month over month, the price, price of goods and services increases. Now, the equation for how they figure this out, Bergs, is just ridiculous. Like it's like 15 plus 21 equals 3. Like that's basically how they figure it out. Like they pick and choose, select goods and services to bring that number down. And we're looking at a chart here in front of us, and maybe Bergs can bring it up if you've got it there. It's set on Slack, but I'll sort of
2 secs.
I'm talking about it for the podcast listeners. So this is basically a chart that's showing a range of different consumer goods and services in the US and the price changes between January 2000 and June 2022. Now, this chart is showing us that over the course of the last 22 years, the overall inflation has actually been closer to 74%. Now, this is over 20 years, but some of these things are insanely more expensive. And heading past, there was sort of steady growth for a lot of these things through like 2010 to 2020. But after 2020 to now, there's been a sharp increase. And some of these things include new cars, household furnishing, up at maybe 15 to 20% in the last couple of years. Housing, food and beverages, average hourly wages, hospital services, medical care services have skyrocketed into sort of the 80, 90, 100% increase of prices for these services over the last few years, which is just astronomical, Bergs.
It's so crazy. And I was reading The Psychology of Money recently, and they were saying that they basically linked 9/11 to college tuition fees and how that happened. Then they printed money and they went through a GFC, and then there was huge unemployment, housing fell, and then people went in droves to get reskilled, go to college, which is uni, and then upskill, and then the fees go through the roof. It is just like, it is phenomenal. All those knock-on effects and fat tails.
Yeah.
It's really well illustrated in this graph. And I like your point about okay, let's talk about CPI for a sec. CPI, what they do is they get a basket of goods. So the average person will need these things: fruit, vegetables, home, car, whatever it may be. The challenge with CPI is, first of all, it's not representative of my lifestyle or your lifestyle. It's an average, which is okay because you're comparing averages to averages. But what they do over time, and the big failing in CPI, is they don't account for quality. So you get a TV. TV 20 years ago was small, it was shitty. Now it's like bloody 80-inch, whatever it may be. Huge technology increase. Same with laptops as well. It's more productive, you can do more. But no, a laptop is a laptop is a laptop. And maybe 50 years ago, your home might have been a 1/4 acre block 4x2. Now they're like, oh no, an average home nowadays will be a 3x1 or an apartment. So the quality has actually shrunk. And the incentive of the government, what they want to do is keep inflation to 2 to 3%. So that means the economy is increasing a little bit each year, but not too much that it's uncontrollable. So people are generally happy. When it's out of control, and you're the guy that has to report it, what do you want to do? You want to report the lowest number you can. If you report the high number, someone's coming and chopping off your head tomorrow. You better watch out. So, and this is the thing, like we look at petrol, that's like doubled. We look at a lot of costs that have increased, 2, 3, 4, 5-fold, yet we're getting these 8 to 10%, 6% inflation numbers. They don't really match up.
Yeah, it's wild times. And for a lot of people, including people I know, don't hold any assets. They only hold cash. And what we're saying here is cash itself isn't inflationary. Like if you put $10 in your bank, it's not worth 15 like a year later, right? Like the interest rates are so low, you're never going to get that sort of increase on your cash. So what happens is this thing called your purchasing power, the ability to purchase goods and services with that cash decreases. And this is a major problem for big businesses, right? Like if you're sitting on an absolute truckload of cash, the purchasing power by holding that cash continues to decrease. And when you're talking about massive volumes of cash, like it's a big decline in what you can buy. So the same problem is with, families and individuals and just everyone. Like by holding cash, you're not in an asset that grows with inflation, right? So if we think about property, if you were to buy a property 10 years ago, and Bergs owns a property, like that total value of that property will increase over the time, but so does other properties as well, right? So if you go and sell that property now, it's probably only going to buy you sort of a similar style of house down the road.
Yeah,
it all increases, but the value increase over that period of time. Where if you just held cash at that same point, that won't increase. You won't be able to get any additional purchasing power.
Exactly, and I'll say it again: the function of inflation is to erode capital. And I've done the maths, Ben. I've done the calculations. So let's say you've got $100,000. You've got a nice chunk of money. Good on you in the bank. At 6% inflation, after 5 years, 5 years have gone by, your $100,000 is worth $74,000 purchasing power. So if you could buy a $100,000 car, you could buy a Tesla. Year 1, year 5, you can't anymore. And if it's at 10%, after 5 years, it's only worth 70 grand. Let's bump that up. Let's go to 10 years. You hold your, because people are very risk averse, right? The price for investing is doubt, fear, uncertainty. It's watching the numbers go up, watching them go down, watching you lose money, but also make money. That's very scary to a lot of people, but that is the price you have to pay if you want to succeed. And if you don't, you have your money in the bank. After 10 years at 6%, your 100 grand is worth 54,000. And at 10%, it's worth 48,000. After 10 years at 6% or 10%, you've lost half your purchasing power. You've lost half your money. So think about this. $50,000. How long would you have to work for 50,000? Take your 50 grand, add your tax on top, and that is how many hours you would have to work by not investing. So it's incredible.
Let's just slow that down again. This is happening right now. This is not potentially if inflation increases. This is right now. Inflation in Australia is around 6%. What we're saying that if you work your ass off over the next 5 years to save $50,000, by the time you've saved that over the next 5 years, it's gone in purchasing power. This is like what people don't understand. Yep. You are fighting against the system.
Yes. And having your money in the bank, you get maybe, let's say, be generous, 3% interest. The bank takes your money, lends it out at 6%, gives you 3%. On that 3%, you have to pay tax because that's income. So you're going to pay another at least 30% on top of that. You'll end up with 2%. You're making 2% a year. You're losing 4% a year extra on top of that.
And can I add, you don't put the money in the bank because the mainstream, narrative is that you save cash and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, by all means, that you should hold cash. But do you think the banks are holding your cash? Fuck no. The banks are lending that shit out. The banks are literally, it's called, what's it called, Bergs? The
hypothecation.
Rehypothecation.
Yeah.
Which basically is a big word for we're just going to take that 100 exit and just lend it all out.
And let's get even more granular here. So in the States, this is really bad. So they do two things, and this is mainly with financial institutions, and you can Google this. It's called commingling, hypothecation, and rehypothecation. Commingling is Ben and I both put $100 in the bank. They put it in their safe. We go to the bank. I'm like, can I have my $100? They show me the $100. Ben goes to the bank. Can I have my $100? They show him the $100. It's still there, but it's the same $100, right? That's the challenges with commingling. Hypothecation is where you take that $100 and you have an IOU against it and you lend it to, I don't know, Fred down the road. And you say, we've got $100 at our bank, we'll lend it to you. But then you have rehypothecation where you actually lend out Fred's lent out money, right? And there was a classic, pretty much the numbers in the States, if you look at Cathie Wood stuff, it's roughly 2 to 3.5 times the actual amount they have. So if they have $100, they'll lend it out 2.5 to 3 times. What happens when an event happens or a bubble or inflation or we all make claims on that? Well, you go to your safe and you don't have the money there and you're in trouble. And that's what we're starting to see.
We just saw that a couple of weeks ago with Silicon Valley Bank. This is exactly what goes on. As soon as you get people running to get the money out of the bank, guess what, guys? The money isn't there.
Yeah, that's it. And this is the game they're playing. And specifically with those guys, they invested in long-term bonds because they're like, great, bonds are safe. It's the safest thing you can do. The problem is inflation is outpacing bonds. So if you're getting inflation 6% a year and you've got a 10-year treasury bond and it's at like 3 or 4%, when that's at maturity, you're going to end up with less money than inflation. So you're actually losing money by investing in that bond. You need to report that on your balance sheet. You've got a hole in your balance sheet that you need to patch. So if there were all claims on the money that you had, you would not be able to produce that money for your customers, and banking, that's a problem. And one thing I will say, banking in Australia is a lot better than the States. We have a lot stricter rules around commingling and hypothecation and deposits and guarantees. So I'm a lot more confident in Australia, but these are just the things that are happening globally that will eventually flow on and affect us.
Now, there's two main ways you can get out of this system, right? And now the system is, you're losing your money through just holding cash. One is investing into assets like property, gold, Bitcoin, stocks, etc., etc. The second way is owning a business. So owning a business that is generating revenue from other people. So that, could be a solopreneur business. It could be you selling art. It could be you delivering a service. It could be, whatever that might be, where there's money coming in 24/7 or, sort of all day, all year round, when you aren't directly tied to, every single hour that you put in. Basically a revenue generating model, and that's a business. They're kind of the two main ways you can get out of that system.
Yeah, and really the top 30% of people, and when we say top, we mean they have more money or they're wealthier, they control more assets than the lower 70%. They understand one thing: you need to invest in appreciating assets that are tax friendly. You need to put your money somewhere, and you don't need to earn heaps of money to do this. You just need to get started. And the general rule that all the finance guys say is something like 10% of your pay. There's even the book Profit First for businesses. Take 10% and put it in your profit account. With that, invest it. And the rest, is for your spending, your bills, everything, and stick to that lifestyle. That way, week on week, or if you get paid monthly, you're getting that 10%, you're putting it away, you're compounding, you're investing in those assets, and you're benefiting. And even things like the bank, there's a saying like, don't put your money in the bank, buy the bank. Why would you give them your cash when you can own a piece of the bank, get a dividend, and share in the profits? And even just like, you're incredibly right where you need to invest. There's two other ways you can get rich as well. You can marry into wealth and you can inherit it. But look, the reality is like 99.9999% of people aren't going to be able to do that. And I suggest you don't marry for money, otherwise you're going to earn every cent every day. And inheritance, again, like that's very rare and also, can't be relied on. But you're right, Ben, you need to put that money somewhere where it is going to grow, leave it alone, let it compound and appreciate over time.
That's a good leeway into now how we're going to sort of segue everything we just spoken about into Bergs and I. We have our own personal strategies and they're very different. And I think that's why what's valuable about this podcast is like Bergs is the MBA with, a family and a house, and I'm the single high school dropout with, no belongings, completely different, style of my life.
You're single, you're homeless, you live out of a suitcase. You're pretty much a hobo that owns a business. You could create like a new like subculture. It's like extreme nomading.
Extreme nomading. But
I think the main things are like I'm closer to 40, and I've got uni education, done a master's. I have a family. I have a home, and Ben is early 20s. He's got a business. He dropped out of high school. He's run multiple businesses. He's an investor. He's a speaker. And we're at very different stations in life. So what we've done is gone through and looked at our portfolio allocation, how we're currently allocated. And I'm excited to see this as well. And we can just talk through it. Ben, your one's pretty straightforward. Did you want to go with yours first and how you think about investing and why you're invested in that way?
Yep. And I've actually put together and followed Berg's advice and created a little spreadsheet with my personal net worth. And if you haven't listened to that episode, that's also a crack, episode 48 on how to calculate your net worth in 5 minutes. But really there's two main investments I have, but in terms of total exposure, it's pretty much 99.9% in crypto. So I own crypto assets, predominantly Bitcoin, and then I also own Ethereum and a couple of other altcoins as well. Predominantly my wealth's in Bitcoin, and I've been buying crypto for the last 6 years. And again, if you want to go deeper on how I did that, I started out with nothing, by the way. Like, I was living at home when I first started with literally zero. You can head over to episode 53, which I was talking about. But the other one is I own a business, and I'm love entrepreneurship. I love building businesses. I've been doing that since I've been young. Started with selling face finger paintings, and then iPhone repair business, and then an events company and a sportswear business, and then worked for another crypto company before this one, and then Collective Shift. So I've had a number of businesses, and for me, building a machine that delivers value to people that can pay you through scale and leverage. And Naval talks about this all the time, is leveraging your time through processes and systems and leverage. So leveraging, content and people to deliver a product that a lot more people can consume and pay for, that doesn't require just hour for hour time. And I've read all the books from, I'm blanking on him now, who's the gold guy, the gold bug that's into Bitcoin, the money man.
Robert Kiyosaki.
Robert Kiyosaki, that's him. So I read all his
No, not him.
Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, read all his books, and he's got the quadrant. You know the 4-part quadrant.
Cash flow quadrant.
Yeah, boy.
Got it behind me.
Yeah,
mate.
nice man. So that's a great book to start with about learning about there's different types of businesses that are going to return different types of money. So check that book out as well. But all in all, like I have so much conviction on the crypto space. I'm genuinely all in. Not only do I own crypto assets, but my business is in crypto. So in terms of exposure, I'm there. And the reason being is just because I, at this point in time, am high risk, high reward, and the downside is relatively, I wouldn't say catastrophic, but it's relatively bad in a sense of like it would take me right back to zero. But I'm in that position where I don't have a family. Like I don't have I've got a family, but I'm not in a relationship. I don't have kids. Don't have a mortgage.
Yeah.
Don't have any of that. So like for me, I'm going big, and in my 20s, I want to learn and grow and do as much as I possibly can, and that's why I'm going hard at this point in time. And that's overall my strategy, and that'll change over time. I'll start to diversify, but for now, crypto it is.
Yeah. And you touched on a key point in terms of leverage with people, capital, code. That is what you want to do. You want to create something that makes money while you sleep. That is how you exit the rat race and wake up and do whatever you want to do every single day. And the other thing is you're highly risk on. And I would be doing the exact same thing at your age with crypto. I put everything in there because you've got time. It can all go to zero. You can still, make it back. You can invest in other things. And the rate at which you're learning in the business is incredible. And those are skills and learnings that you will take with you, and you will find success. I already think you've got success. And actually I would say your value in the business, because you're a majority owner, is worth more than your crypto.
Oh, shit,
it's just that it's hard to value a startup, and it's not liquid, right? You can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
But in terms of what you're doing, I would be doing exactly the same thing. I would be majority crypto, but I'll probably be a little bit of shares as well, depending on how much money I had, because I'd be young and I wouldn't have much money.
Yeah. Awesome, man. How about you?
All right, let's go through mine. So, a bit about my investing journey. I started investing when I was 21, and the book I started with, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is great for mindset, but it was called, I'm pretty sure it's called Making Money it's called Making Money by Paul Clitheroe. So Paul Clitheroe, he's a guy who used to be on Channel 9. There was a show called Money. I used to read Money Magazine. He's a really tall guy, and it's just basic sense about how to structure things. It's really actionable. It's an amazing book. I actually read and reread it to make sure I got the basics right. And I started off with that guy. It's essentially like the equivalent of the barefoot investor without the cult-like bullshit. It's just tools and nuts and bolts, right? And I would also recommend The Psychology of Money, probably those two books. Right, so I started when I was 21, and I'm like, I need to get into shares. And I'm reading Money Magazine, and they're going through all these shares and what to invest in. I didn't know anything. And at the time, I was going with my mates every weekend. We're going to JB Hi-Fi, and we'd always go there. We'd buy DVDs. We'd buy. I was like, man, this place is pumping. There's so many people here buying heaps of crap. Shit, man, I might buy some of these shares. So I put a little bit of money into their shares, and I bought like all these dodgy things you do, like speculative miners, whatever. Lost a lot of money. But with JB Hi-Fi, it went from, I think I got it like a couple of dollars, and it went to about $20. And that was incredible for me, because at that time, probably 5 years later or whenever it was, I ended up, 5 or 6 years later, I ended up cashing out that money and buying some land. I used that for a home deposit.
Nice.
And this was great, right? Because it would have taken me forever to save up for that deposit. And then I was able to use that deposit to buy a house, then get the capital growth and appreciation in there, and on it goes until where I am today. And obviously, I've invested in my education, I've increased roles, I've got more pay, those kind of things. So let's look at my asset allocation. And I was fascinated when I do this. I do this quite regularly, and it always astonishes me because things can bloom. Crypto can go through the roof. It can go to zero, go really close. And so this is how I'm allocated. Percentage. So I've got about 30% of my net worth in real estate, about 27% in cash, 22% in shares, 14% in crypto, 5% in bonds, 2% in other debt, commodities, those kind of things. Now, the one that sticks out to me is crypto's quite low, 14%. That's because it's down considerably, and I don't like to have too much of my portfolio in crypto. When it really starts to bloom, I like to sell that off and diversify into other assets that aren't as risky. And the reason I do that is because I'm older than Ben. I have a family. My wife is studying at the moment. She's not going to be working for the next few years. And I want levels and layers of security. I want that 6 to 12 months of fuck you money where I could just go, Ben, you're a piece of shit. I'm not working for you anymore. I wouldn't do that because you're a great guy. I'll work for you forever. But you know, when you're in that situation in a job that you hate, where you can just say, no, I want to take some time off. I want to figure what I want to be able to do. And I've got that cash in my bank where I'm able to do that. I don't have to sell off my assets. I don't have to sell my crypto. I don't have to sell my shares. And although I have cash at bank, I'm keeping that for a very specific reason. First of all, it's doing me a solid by offsetting my mortgage, which is like 6% or something like that. Just doing a refinance at the moment, redrawing more equity, and that rate will come down, and I'll have another debt facility where I can then use that money to invest in other things. But it is doing me a solid by offsetting that, which is great. While I wait, I'm still averaging in, I'm still using a bit of money, but I'm still waiting for events where I have that freedom to say, hey, that asset I've been eyeing off for a while, that's on sale and that's looking tasty. And now I'm going to pick up a chunk of that. And that is where you make wealth. You make it through concentration. And then once you've got your wealth, because making wealth and keeping wealth are different. And I'm not a super wealthy person or everything. I've got enough to like be comfortable. I still need to work and everything like that, but I do have a level of comfort. And that has come through concentrating. So I concentrated on a few specific shares and a little bit of crypto. And I made a little bit of money where I have that, 6 or 12 month buffer in the bank, which makes you comfortable. And then from there, once you've got that wealth and you've concentrated, making money is easy. You've got to keep it, right? So you need to learn about tax. You need to learn about diversification and then how you're actually structured. So you've got layers and layers. It's like, I liken it to security, like home security. If you've got nothing on your house, someone can break in. But if you've got like an alarm, you got cameras, you got security doors, you got a dog. It's like having those layers you need to bust through. It offers you a certain level of comfort. And that's the way I'm diversified the way I am now. And just to recap, real estate 30%, cash 27%, shares 22%, crypto 14%, bonds 5%, and other gold, like things like gold and those kind of things that, that was like gifted to me a while ago. It's like stored at some fucking place. I don't even remember where it is. I don't want that at my house. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just like small amounts of just different asset classes, really going the diversification route. Yeah. And that has afforded me a level of comfort and security. And I like the way that I'm invested where I sleep well at night. That is a big thing for me. Am I twitchy about it? Do I not like it? Am I able to sleep? I will not sacrifice anymore one night of sleep for an investment. I will just not do that anymore.
Yeah, we've all been there.
And that's it. This is the thing where you're uncomfortable. When you're younger, you can do it no problem. But mate, I need my sleep these days, I tell you what. And the point we're driving home here is if you want to be in that top 30%, you need to understand that you need to invest. There is a price you need to pay, and that is being uncomfortable. It's seeing your portfolio go down, but staying the course and investing over time and understanding how this structural function works. That 30% understands something the 70% don't. That being said, the 70% might understand it, but they might not have the capital to actually invest.
Yeah. And if you don't have that capital to invest, like I didn't, and like we all start with not much, even when Bergs are 20, like starting out with something small, like really, I know I've said it a number of times, but like go over and listen to episode 53, starting with zero and how to build a portfolio. Like that was, I thought it was one of our best episodes and really breaking down how we build our portfolios and strategies to build it up if you're starting with not much.
Absolutely. And it's not to do with income, it's to do with how much you save. Like even the books I'm reading, you've got people that were just working average jobs, but they saved a higher percentage of their pay and let it compound for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
There's a wild stat where Warren Buffett made $81.5 billion of his $85 billion after he was 65 because of compounding. Yeah. Like how wild is that? And this is the thing that we need to understand. And as long as you get those habits and you set them up, you'll be going for that better life. And it's definitely worth doing. You can pay the price at some point, but there's something you need to get through, manage your psychology, and it takes years and years to do this. But you eventually get to a point where you understand things and you're actually comfortable with them.
Yeah. And you learn over time, like you said, Bergs. Like you get in the markets and you learn. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be losing investments, but you got to start somewhere. And to escape the cash rat race, you need to get out and invest.
Exactly. And even I look at my parents' generation where they went through big interest rates, they went through high unemployment. They were very scared. They just kept cash. And the difference between them and a lot of their friends was at one point they bought a house. They bought one house, they rented it out, and they did that for 30 years. It got paid off, and they end up with $700,000 to $1 million more than my parents did, just from doing that one simple act and just putting that money away every single week. It's forced dollar cost averaging, forced savings.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. You know, the 6% interest rate over 10 years, you're losing half your money. That's insane when you think about it like that.
Exactly. Oh, check this out. Okay, at 6% over 20 years, your 100 grand is now worth 29,000.
Yeah,
can you imagine that? 20 years. And when you get older, that flies by. So if you're keeping your cash, you're not investing it. And this is why when you have superannuation, it's forced investing. The government and all those institutions invest it for you. Otherwise, if you put that money away, it's going to be worth 29% of what it was. So it needs to grow for your retirement so you can actually spend it and have decent purchasing power.
Yeah. Wild times. Hopefully that's been helpful, team. If you've got a crypto portfolio, maybe you're down, maybe you're not really confident, you're not really knowing the latest strategies, maybe you want to add a bit more risk on. We have over Collective Shift offering complimentary crypto strategy calls, 15 minutes. I've still got a few left. I'm booked up for the rest of this week. There's been so many people come in, and these have been hugely popular for our members. So we thought we'd offer them for a limited time for our listeners, and a lot of you Ben and Bergs fans. We know you're in crypto, so if it's of any help, we'd love to jump on a quick call and help you out and answer any questions you have. You can head to the link in the description, collectiveshift.io/strategy. Completely complimentary, and we'll help you out with your portfolio.
And it's amazing. The feedback you've had that you've been telling us during our weekly huddles, Ben, has just been awesome. It just puts a smile on my face and it warms my heart, where people need to speak to someone else about what's going on and just get a different lens and a different perspective, or even confirmation, or potentially, the paths that they're going down, to help them out with all the other advice that they receive.
Yeah.
And absolutely, just get on a call. It's 15 minutes. Have a chat to Ben and get sorted.
Totally. Awesome, guys. Hopefully that's been helpful. As always, we'd love for you to share this with a friend, family member, colleague, brother, sister, or pet. If you think they need help with their investing, if they're holding too much cash or they're not holding enough investments, get this over to them. Tell them Ben and Berg sent them and get them in crypto.
That's right. If your dog is out there hoarding bones, get him to listen to this podcast.
Shake the AirPods on him.
Awesome episode, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.
See you next time.